Video, we're gonna be making these beautiful custom walnut countertops.
Take these walnut slabs you see here
and finishing them off with some bar top epoxy
for these diamond nail cabinets.
At the end of this video, I'll go through some things that if I had to do it all over again, I would do a little differently after finishing it. But it turned out pretty good. So y'all stick around, you'll see the build process, some mistakes we made during the process, what we did to correct them, the epoxy, all that stuff. And then at the end, like I said, I'll go through some other things and yeah, enjoy the video.
We're gonna come pop a chalk line somewhat close to even with this first one here and rip an edge, so then we can run it down the table saw and keep it somewhat straight and plane it down. As you can see here, we got walnut sitting here. We took all the slabs I had. We just had enough for most of it. Took all the slabs I had, marked out the sections out of all of them. We could get the longest solid pieces out for the longest run on those cabinets. And then we went back and what was left and marked out what we could for the 42-inch ones, then 36-inch ones, which we gotta end up going back and cutting them off square and whatnot. But that's after we get them all plain and joined. We were one board short for 36 inches. So what I had to do was and I had another slab. It was only like 1.25 inches or almost 1.5 inches thick. So we cut two 36-inch pieces out of that, planed them both down, and we're gonna glue them together. And then once they're glued together, run them through the planer and get them down to the same thickness as the rest of these. These are done here. We planed them to 1.75 inches because we're gonna glue them together. And then we got some friends that work at a cabinet shop. They have a big, like 36-inch wide planer they said we could use. So we're gonna go run it through their planer and get a final plane on it once it's all solid together. If something falls through and we can't take them, what we'll do is end up just planing them all down to 1.5 inches thick, final thickness, and then glue them together and do it that way. But either way, we'll figure it out. But we're only going to 1 3/4 right this minute. And I'm using this Bauer benchtop planer, which I have a review on, a video if you want to see it. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and finish all these shorter pieces myself and then get Dad to come. Yeah, I saw some of it, but get him to come help me finish with these long ones, and then we'll get them put together. All right, I got all the short ones planed down here to 1 3/4. Only ones I got left, these two long ones. I can get them started, no problem. I need somebody to catch it on the other side when it comes out, because I have to walk them, all the way up to the planer. So Dad's gonna help me with that in a couple of days. But I got these done. Man, I tell you, my two favorite types of wood are black walnut and cedar. And my two favorite things about them are obviously how they look. They're just beautiful pieces of wood. But B, because of the smell, man. Cedar and walnut, man, I just love the smell of them after you cut them. And obviously walnut dust, it's not good to breathe in walnut dust because it's some kind of toxins in it. But like you can just pick up this piece of wood after I planed it and smell it, man, it smells good. But I know that may be kind of weird to non like woodworking people, but there's I'm sure a lot of y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway, look at that piece of wood, man. That's pretty. But anyway, I had my air hose just, blowing it out so it didn't get clogged up when it's running through. But you see what pile of shavings I got here. And I got one about that size over there where we was planting those other long ones too. But anyway, I don't really have a purpose for that, otherwise I'd save it. I'm about to glue these two together. I really wish I didn't have to do this. I would have really had a solid piece, but it is what it is. This glue will hold fine. Today's Monday. Wednesday we're gonna run through the joiner, so they'll have 2 days to dry. So anyway, all right, got it clamped down good. I lathered it up real good on one side and then just squirted a little bit on the other side, on the other piece. Use these boards just so they don't indent my wood here. I'm gonna plant it some more, but still I didn't want it indenting it. All right, it's been 2 days since I glued them, so we're gonna take it apart and see how well it's holding. So we got these. This one's cut off square and good. This one's cut off square. It's good. But these two walls are not perfectly square. So the farther down you get, the more, off it is. So we had a gap in the front. So we ended up just measuring our gap, which is 3/8, and started on the corner and took 3/8 at an angle down there off to get them to fit up square. We got 7/8 overhang. So we got a little gap here because they did not cut these when we sent them to the cabinet shop. They did not cut the overall length correctly. It was too short. So then we had to end up going and cutting some of these off to make them the same depth. But we got backsplash we got to cut to go on here so it'll cover that gap. So anyway, the only other thing, these are pretty flat for the most part. These long ones, however, not. The shop is not air conditioned or anything, so it's a little different humidity. We put them in here and it's set for a little bit so it in the AC and it adjusts, cups slightly more. That side and this side are kind of toward each other, and these pretty flat. If you see, when I push this end down just a hair, that end corner comes up. We got unistrut we're about to cut right here, and we're gonna put them together and get bolts and bolt them down on each end on top of the wood. And you'll see in a second to help try to get some of this out. And I don't want to flex it too much. I don't want to crack any joints. If I do, we're gonna just fill more cracks. But we sandwich together and clamp the unistrut down and try to flatten these out. We want to drill pocket screws from the bottom here, but we got to have it flat so when we screw it together, it's good and flat, and we don't have much uneven surface here to sand off or whatever. So that's what we're about to work on. And if I'd thought about it, once we got it back from the cabinet shop, it's been a few days, like 5 or 6 days since we got it back, or maybe a week now before we could work on it. If I'd thought about it, we'd have went ahead and put unistrut on it and clamped it flat and just to let it set for a few days so it would have stayed, well, actually it would have straightened it out from the cupping to start with, but it would have stayed flat. So now when we work on it, it would have been pretty much, it'd be flat and we wouldn't have to worry about it. It is what it is. We're going to try to correct it the best we can. We got our pocket screws, pocket holes drilled, and put our screws in there, attaching it to this side because that's the long piece and the corner piece. And now just the bottom side, I'm just putting a coat of polyurethane on it to seal the bottom side. And once we get it on the top, we'll put the epoxy on top. It's gonna be pretty in it. Bottom side, just a urethane seal coat. All right, so because it was splitting some where we clamped it last time, we come back, put a little glue in the split, clamped them together, just to squeeze it on up tighter. And then we put these clamps back on to keep it flat. So what we're gonna do is take these clamps off. We're gonna leave the unistrut on. We're gonna take these other clamps and stuff off, flip it over. And then I got my pieces here that my channel that I had made and drilled holes in. And then we're gonna put it on there on the back of it like this and screw it in with some pocket screws. About 1 inch, that's 3/16 thick. And that is just shy 1.5 inches. I don't want to go much farther than a 1/2 inch. I mean, much farther than halfway through that. So 1 inch would be good. Just hopefully it holds it all flat. We're gonna see how it turns out. All right, we got them sitting up here, no problem. I have a shim under the side here to get it up level, and one under the back there. And to fasten, so the Lazy Susan, if you saw, it's just flat. There's really no brackets to fasten to. So we're gonna try to just drill it down, fasten it down to these 2x along the back. And then these had the brackets, you know, in the cabinets. But get it all fastened down on this side. And then this end, we'll, because it's up just a little bit where the wood was twisted, we'll flex it down, screw it down. It should pull down. You can see right there, where it's kind of up just a little bit. So we'll get it down, fasten down. But I want to get it fastened down. We got to route the edges and get it fastened down first. So then we can cut out our sinking. So what we got going here, because this was also, we got all this fine, the metal worked good. This was cupped a little bit. It had a big gap back there. So what we did is we took a couple wedges. Well, this one's been cut off, but we took some pieces like that and just stuck them. We should have done them 3 wide. We did them in the center, just 2 wide right there. And then we put some screws, a couple screws here, a couple screws there, and it pulled it down pretty flat. But right here, I should have done 3 wide, because right here, I just got, well, you see that one just fell. I stuck these in there just to keep it from pulling it back past where I need it, because I need, you know, I got my stick out here. I didn't need it pulling in any. So we had just stuck them in there. But I can take them out now. But anyway, you look at it now. I didn't show it before, but it's a whole lot better. It's just got a little bit more here. But once the epoxy's on there and it's level, and then this sits on top of it, that gap will be filled, and you won't even see it. See, now it's not noticeable really. But for them plastic tabs in there, you can't see them in there. They would be useless because you can just bend them with your hand anyway. So what we got here, because this wood is warped, if you pull this down to get rid of this gap, it also raises up here, and then it's level. So we got some little corner brackets and just some old like cabinet hinge screws and stuff we're going to use, along with some pocket screws. Put a couple on this side here, and then 1 or 2 on this side here, and then 1 in the back or 2, because when you push down here, it raises that right there up just a hair. Probably can't see it in the video. That'll help keep it from pulling down. It'll help keep it stressing different points instead of stressing all in one area. All right, we got her on there good and flat. Can't see it with my drawer in there, probably. Bracket right there. We got 1 on each side holding it down, and 1 over there in the back. But so that's good enough. It's all flat now, and that gap is gone. And cut our sinkhole. So we got a center mark on our sink, and then a mark where we need on our center of our counter. Line those up. Got it the right depth off of the edge here, and that needed at least 1 5/8 inches to clear the inside of the cabinet, which is over 2 inches. So we just put a marker on the outside. Now we got to go back and measure this distance and put a mark inside of that and draw around. That's going to be our cut line. What we're going to do, we're going to screw a couple in here, just so when we take our jigsaw and get the corners here, it don't fall through. We can lift it out. We got a long piece. We just use 2 scrap pieces to get screw on there. I want to be able to use this, which is split here, but I want to be able to use this for some stuff. So I'm going to reach under and try to catch it from the bottom. made a mistake. We said before, because this window was off and all in the cabinet space, and we was gonna split the difference between the center of the cabinet and the center of the window, which would have pointed an inch over that way. But we forgot, and we centered it off the window, which had it an inch over too far this way. So now we gotta trim just this side of the cabinet out. I can't believe we forgot that, but it's too late now. We already cut it. So we're gonna make it work. We gotta cut 8 inches. It's like 8 and 1/8 down out of that. No, leave that in there. It's capped off, yeah. Oh well, the functionality of it would be perfectly fine. It ain't gonna hurt the function of it. It's just not as aesthetically appealing. Yeah, it's too late now. You can't put wood back in there. Yeah, I got you on this side. Getting hot. It gets hot. Now we're gonna route the edges. We did find a 45 bit. Rather than just rounding it, we're gonna do kind of a 45. I'm going to sand these smooth, fill in these cracks with some paste, which I've already mentioned before, so y'all will see that in a second. We'll fill these cracks in here so they're solid, and re-sand over that to smooth it down even, and then we'll start the epoxy. Let's move on to this. We got this routed, as you can see here. Good 45 edge. I like the way that looks. It turned out looking good, and even right here in the corner, got it routed around. It looks good. We'll do the same thing over here. We're also going to 45 the backsplash. It's not attached, but we'll 45 the top of the backsplash too. Get it looking similar. Originally, I was gonna fill these in with mix some Titebond or some kind of. Actually, I had some of this Gorilla because it's a little clear. The regular Gorilla Glue is more clear than the Titebond, but this just says dries clear. So that I was gonna use it to mix up some sanding dust to put in these cracks and smooth it down. But a guy I know that does, stuff professionally said, don't do that because even though it's an old trick, like the Titebond or whatever glue, it darkens, kind of ambers when it dries, and it'll leave over time. You'll see it doesn't blend well with the wood as well, and you'll see a line there, which to me that little bit doesn't make much difference. I just really need to fill the gap, but I'm gonna follow what he said. Show a little trick with the some super glue, which you can use CA glue or whatever. It's pretty much the same thing. But put some super glue in here and sand over it, and then it fills it with the dust and dab a little more on it and sand, and it dries, and it basically just disappears on these little small cracks or splits, whatever like that. This one was actually on a joint where it was glued. This one, I guess, was a little bit of a split. But we're gonna get those to disappear. But first, I'm going to hit it with my belt sander, my Bauer sander. I got a video on it, which I'm doing partly with this. Y'all know I like Bauer, but we're gonna hit this with 120 first, and then I'm gonna come back with some 150 on my palm orbital sander, and we'll finish it off and fill this in at the same time with that. So I got my Bauer orbital sander here, and I just got some 60 grit on here, Velcroed, but I got this, it's PSA, pressure sensitive sanding paper. It's just stick right on top of this other one here. And the guy I was talking about told me this other stuff. He's been doing woodworking for a long time. He's an older guy, and he told me this works better. And in my experience so far, the PSA does work better. So 150 here, get it with that, and then we're gonna put the seal coat on here. All right, so you see that crack right here, right? Now what I got is some super glue or CA glue, basically the same thing. You can get some activator to make it quicker, but it's 30-second stuff anyway. So what I'm gonna do is put a little bit in the crack and then start sanding it over it, and just keep adding a little bit and sanding over. I mean, you can put some dust in the crack, take some sawdust or, from the sanding dust, fill in the crack, put the glue over it to kind of wet it and sand it, whatever. But I'm just gonna start by putting some in the crack and then sanding over it and letting the dust that's coming off of this fill it in. And if that's taking a little too long, depending on the size of the crack, I can get some out of this dust collection. And it will be darker because it's got the glue in it. It has like a wet look to it. But when you put the epoxy over it and it darkens, it gives it that wet look. It'll blend in with that because it'll be the same color, because this will be wet also. So. It's doing pretty good. As you can see, it's filled in, but it's darker, like I said, because the glue wet it. And but then when you put the epoxy on here, it'll darken this to match that same color. You know, if you ever put water on wood, it always gets darker, especially this black walnut. So I'll show you what I'm talking about when I put the seal coat on here. It'll basically be that exact same color right there once it's dark. All right, guys, as you can see now, that filled in really nice. Those little holes here that I had are full. And this crack's full. You can see a little bit of the line, but like I said, that'll blend in with the color. But the gap itself is full. So I got one more here I'm gonna do real quick. Try to get you a better view so you can see where it's filled up. It's just that little darker color. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the seam here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it right here and just run it up and down at an angle, you know, hold it at an angle and just run up and down like that and get it all leveled out. Because, you know, this grain's running this way, this grain's running that way. So at an angle, it's kind of pulling, but kind of going, you know, the same direction. I can balance my level on it. Now I can come out here and put me a couple marks with my pencil and just kind of figure out how wide I need it to level out. All right, now I'm gonna do, so it's all level now. It doesn't have a hump. It's flat. The only thing, this has a little dip here because it cut a little, you know, it's running this way, but the outside edge here is level with the seam now, and the seam is all flat level over here. So it'll just have a little thicker epoxy here. I'll put multiple layers and it'll be just a little thicker right here, but not too much. But it's level there now. So now what I'll do, because you see some sand and marks going this way, I'm just gonna take my 120, run across a little bit this way just to make those go with the grain, and, you know, finish off, because I haven't done any of that, finish that off with 120. And then come over here. I've already been doing this way a little bit because it was a little bit high here, so I took it down there. So I've already went this way with it to straighten those sanding scratches. I mean, you know, getting them going with the grain. We got to do something with this big crack here, and I'll get to that in a second. Once I get everything completely sanded with 120, we'll go over that. All right, y'all, I got everything sanded down with 120. Now, right here, I'll go ahead and tell you what I got to do, my options here. So my options here is I can come in, basically put me a fence up right here, a level or something, straight edge, clamp down, and set just about a 1/2 inch depth on a skill saw, or even run a fence down to both sides and use a router bit or whatever and groove out this, you know, inch wide or whatever. Then I can rip a piece that I have left and then glue it in here to basically fill that. And that's a lot of work. Or I can just fill it all the way up with epoxy and sand it and just have a, you know, whatever color epoxy, or even just clear, but you'll see the split all the way down. Or what I'm probably gonna do, at least try it out, is I'm gonna tape it off and put a little epoxy in the bottom just so it don't blow my tape out. And then once that's cured for a day, come back and fill it all the way up the rest of the way with epoxy, except leave about a 1/16 of an inch. Just leave it about a 1/16 of an inch below the top. And then I'll come back after that's cured for a day and then use my bag. I got a bag here and then about that much more right here. And I'll do the glue trick with it. Just fill that crack up. Just like I said, it's kind of wide, but it'd be only a 1/16 deep. So I can fill that up with dust, come back with my super glue, because I got a big bottle of super glue, fill it in, just soak it down, and then sand it and do it again if I need to. And that should blend this the same way as we did over here, and you can hardly even see. So, and then top it off with our epoxy. We'll get ready to pour that. So that's probably what I'm gonna try first. I think that'd be better than trying to rip and put a piece in here. And it'll also hide the crack so we don't see that. So we're gonna try that and see how that turns out. All right, y'all, I got it all sanded down with 150. Got my front here where the overhang is all sanded down. So we're gonna start filling these in. I got a few places. I got this little split where the seam is, or not split, it didn't fill in where the seam is. Right here where we joined them together. Just some little holes and stuff that was naturally in the wood from whatever reason. Of course, this, we already talked about that. I got a little bit, once I got the sand in, I got a little bit of a part on the seam there. There's a few little, like right here, I think there's another little dip, little hole, whatever. But that's it, get them filled in. One right here, a little kind of spot in the wood. Get them filled with some glue and dust. And then we'll come up in here and hit that epoxy in this crack. So the epoxy that I chose to do this is wisebond. It's the bar and tabletop epoxy. They also have deep pour. And I'll go over why I chose the wisebond. See, it's labeled part A and part B. The reason I chose the wisebond a little bit later in this video, but for now we're gonna just get to mixing it up and pouring on my seal coat and filling that crack. As far as the mixing ratio on this, I think it said a gallon covers like 12 square, like a mixed together gallon covers 12 square foot. So anyway, I divided it out. 21.3 ounces for a 1/4 inch thick, 10.6 ounces per square foot for 1/8 inch thick, and 2.65 ounces per square foot for the seal coat, which is about a 30-second. And we're about to pour that, so just figure out your square footage of your area, like length times width times, any thickness and all, count that in. And it'll be 2.65 square foot, or I'm sorry, 2.65 ounces per. So anyway, for this, on this seal coat, I'm gonna mix up 22 ounces total. So I'll mix 11 ounces each of the part A and part B. And it says, obviously you'll measure out each, pour it into one container, mix it up, and then pour that into another container so there's not some that's not mixed together left, and mix the two together for 3 minutes, pour it in another container and mix it again for a minute, and then you can apply it. So for the big batches, when I get ready to flood coat, I'll be using the mixer like this for the drill. Or for the small batches, I'm gonna get you just a little paint stick because it's not gonna be much more than half of that cup. And mix them for 3 minutes, pour them in the other container and mix them for a minute, and then we're gonna apply it and spread it. It says use just a plastic putty knife to spread it. So we get, I said 11 ounces. This is a little thinner than the other one. think the instructions said you have like 20 minutes or so working time before it starts setting up. Move my roll of, this is what we use to fill the gap in the back. Let's see. Which this one was a little bit too much gap, so I had to put a little piece of wood back there and then put the foam there to squeeze it up. This other gap's tight enough. Just fill this up in the back. And that's the pack of that. It's backer rod. Just got it from the hardware store. Spread this around good with this everywhere. As far as to seal it off. All right, guys, it's been about 21 hours since I poured. It's dry everywhere, and this is what it looks like. That's my seal coat. Man, it's looking beautiful. On the end grain, you know, end grain soaks in a lot of stuff, so there's a lot of places here that could use another, but I'm not gonna worry about the ends because I got refrigerator here, stove here, and you're not gonna see it. It's just the front and the top I'm more worried about. And actually, because I'm limited on space really right here for my stove, I don't want to get it too thick. In the front here, it's not too bad. I got room, but in the back, I don't want to get too thick back there. So what I'm going to do probably after I pour my next coat, just keep it wiped off on the sides so that it's not just building up here. Like same thing under the bottom there. And you can wait an hour till it starts dripping and it just starts getting pretty tacky or whatever, you know what I mean? And then just scrape it and not worry about it. Or they say put blue painter's tape, or I guess some people say Tyvek, like packing tape. So you can just peel it off, or you can just sand it, but I don't really want to sand it. So I'm either just going to keep it wiped or scrape it or whatever, put some tape on it, whatever, probably a combination. So it's looking really good so far. And you see here where I filled in my grain with the super glue and the dust. It turned out good. It just kind of looks, I say grain, filled in the splits, I mean, but it just looks like grain. So it blended in really well there. You can see all right there, it blended in really nice. So that looks good. Anyway, so what I'm about to do, per the instructions, it says the seal coat seals from 18 to 24 hours. It says you can sand with 220 in between for leveling and all that. And then your pour coat, your flow coat, you can, or flood coat, whatever. It says you can pour another one between 18 to 24 hours, but after 24 hours, you have to sand before you pour it. I guess it'll bond better. So I guess if you just want to pour another one between 18 and 24, you just pour it, or after 24, scuff it. But I would prefer to sand it a little bit anyway. So what I'm going to do is get me a piece and just test like on the end down here somewhere and see, make sure it's hard enough to sand, scuff it, and it be, you know, not kind of gummy on my paper or anything. And if it's good, we'll scuff the whole surface, wipe it down with a damp just cloth, mix up and pour my next coat. Also, real quick, I'll talk about why I picked the Wisebond epoxy. So I was looking up this guy's channel, or I was looking up some epoxy to use and some that wouldn't yellow very much over time. You know, some of the most UV resistant epoxy, because we're gonna have blinds here or whatever, but you know, so it's not gonna get a whole lot of sunlight, but over time, you know, to get some. And this guy, I can't remember his channel, but if I think about it, I'll pop it up here. I'll give him a shout out. He was pouring epoxy and testing it. Now it was deep pour, but you know, same company. It was Wisebond, Incredible Solutions, and Super Clear 2.0. Super Clear, that's the ones who makes liquid glass. And he poured, and I was watching it, and it was deep pour, but the ones that stayed pretty clear, he set it out after he poured. He set them out in the sun for like a week. And some of them are really yellow, some of them a little bit. And then these three were still clear. And then also those three had the least amount of bubbles pretty much just from pouring it. And the, I mean, you can see here, it's really clear, but with no UV light. But, and so the reason I picked the Wisebond, I was between basically the Wisebond and the Super Clear or really liquid glass. But it, I ultimately picked the Wisebond. If I can find it, I'll throw it up here, chart. the hardness level. The wisebond was a little bit better on the hardness level. And so to me, you know, if you're setting cups or whatever on the surface, you know, it resists scratches a little better if it's harder. So that's why I ultimately went with the wisebond. And I'm glad I went with that. So I am within the period of being able to pour, I guess, without scuffing it. But it is scuffing good. I tested on the sides. It is scuffing good, or well, I should say, without, it's not gumming up or anything. So we're just going ahead and scuff the whole surface, just so it'll have something to stick to a little better. So as far as scuffing it here, like this first coat, I'm guessing because the seal coat is so thin, I didn't have hardly like any bubbles. Probably because it's so thin, they just kind of pop themselves, I guess. And I didn't mix it, any bubbles in when I was mixing it. But when and you can see here like the little low spots and stuff. But you can torch it up to 2 hours is what the instructions say. So when I pour the second one, you know, if there's any bubbles, whatever, I'll torch them and wait, you know, after about an hour, hour and a half, if I don't got any more, I'll do a final torching on them if there's any bubbles popping up. And then I'll quit after that. There shouldn't be any. But really, like I said, because of the seal coat, as long as I don't get any bubbles in mixing it, really shouldn't be that many. Torch it just lightly to get them gone. That should be it. It should leave a good finish. It says pour 1/2 to 3/4 in the middle, wet the sides so it flows over better, then pour the rest and just use a 1/4 inch notch trowel. I didn't have a 1/4 inch plastic trowel anywhere. I checked a few stores, they didn't have anywhere around here. So we're just gonna run with this flat one and I'll just try to kind of even it out. All right, so I was using my hand to kind of, because it's cupped a little bit, I was using my hand to scuff across the top and get it to flow on over the edge pretty good, so it'll get a good even flow over the edge. And it's still dripping. After I did that, I still have drips. I still have drips coming down, as you can see here, which means it's still flowing over the edge. Otherwise, it wouldn't be dripping. So that's good. So it's leveling, all that's leveling out and flowing over the edge like it should be. I'm gonna take a torch and I'm gonna torch these bubbles. And because you can see here, I got some bubbles. There's a good bit of thickness there, but I got bubbles in it. So I'm gonna torch it to get those out. And then I'm gonna go out here and clean up my buckets and stuff. And then we'll come back. If I get some more over the next hour, I'll torch it again. So it's looking good. I figured out this torch actually works very, very well It's just the container was so full, if you go to sloshing it too much, it'll flame up and go down and then cut out. But if I keep it pretty steady and just very easily move it over a spot, a little bit at a time, it works great. A wider flame helps disperse it better than this little. Problem with this one was it was a little long skinny flame, so I had to kind of whip it over the area. For the most part, it's good. I'm gonna clean up all my utensils and come back and check it. I just used a foam brush to get under there and swipe the underside of it now that it's had to quit dripping, and it looks pretty good. I think that's gonna be be it as far as that goes. So it just needs to cure now. But man, that looks beautiful. So we're ready to finish up with this crack. I got it filled most of the way up. I had it taped on each end, and I got my powder here, my brown cocaine. I'm just kidding. My sand and dust. So we're gonna fill it on up. Before the sink fit perfectly. Now I test fit it again, and it would not go all the way down. And I noticed after this start cured up, it has a little bit of a hump, and I even checked it with a level right here in the middle where the crack was. A little hump. I guess it sucked some epoxy in there, and it swelled up a little bit, so it's kind of got it humped here. So I know I got to take that down, but I probably need to go ahead and take. All right, I took my jigsaw and my multi-tool, because the jigsaw blade kind of bends and it does a little more of an angle and takes some off the top. So I did a combination, skim some off of the multi-tool after that, just trying to get it opened up. And I could use my circular saw, but I'm trying to keep from slinging everything everywhere and keep it right here, because as you can see, we're getting stuff moved in. I don't want to sling a bunch of dust everywhere. It's already getting dusty because of the sand there and stuff, so I try to limit it as much as possible. But anyway, you can see there's a coating on the top on this stainless sink here. It's just like you can see where it's rubbing. It's just like a sound dampening coating, but you can see in here where it's still rubbing. A little right here in the middle, a little there. On the front, it's rubbing a little right here. But that's it. The back's good and the rest of the front's good. So I'm just gonna go back, take a little bit more off of those places. It'll drop in fine now, but I'm gonna take a little more off of those places. Okay. Got the crack all filled up with sawdust now. So we're about to apply the glue and do some sanding. And I already know I'm gonna have to add a little more. So we're just gonna do it in steps. I don't have any of the activator spray, so I'm going to take a blow dryer just to accelerate some of the drying and then get to sanding on it. A method that seems to be working a little bit better for me on this bigger crack is, put a little bit in the crack like I was doing, wet it down real good with the super glue, and then come back with some more. I already had a little bit out, just sprinkled out across the side parallel to the crack here. So after I wet it with the glue and it was real nice and wet around there, I just raked some of the sanding dust over the top of it, completely covering it, and then let it dry. And then once it's dry, when you wipe the excess away, it looks like that. So now I can sand it, and it should be pretty much disappeared for the most part on there, because it's a little bit above the surface anyway, and that should be it. All right, I got her finished up finally. It took several passes. I got it blended. I think that blends a little better than the epoxy. Obviously, you can tell there's a seam. It's not perfect. All right, I got my plastic drop cloth taped up everywhere around here, inside here. Got it ready to go. Put my backer rod in. You see in there my backer rod squished down in there. Microfiber cloth to wipe for the dust. It seems to grab the stuff, the vacuum. You can see there the brown stuff from the dust a little bit. It seems to grab the stuff the vacuum or your a regular rag or tape or something wouldn't grab. So we're about to pour the seal coat on it now. So I used the wisebond app or the website for the calculation of how much I need. So for the seal coat, I need like 60 ounces, and then 238 for the flood coat. We're about to do the seal coat, and I've already showed it the mixing, so I'm not going to show that. So I said I need like 250 something, but I had to subtract what my sink cutout was. I got the seal coat poured and finished up. I did go through and torch it just a little bit, but it looks pretty good. We'll let that cure for almost 24 hours, and we'll scuff it with some 220 like we did the other one. Wipe it down and pour the flow coat and really make sure we get all the bubbles out then. And right here where I filled that If you can see where I filled that crack, it almost looks like a grain in it. We're using the wood like that. It's almost like like I said, it's just a grain pattern in it, kind of. It looks pretty good. Used my 220, got it all scuffed pretty good. Took a Swiffer mop and just kind of mopped around, keep stirring up dust. I'm about to wipe it down, get a damp microfiber cloth and wipe it down. Now I wiped it off with a dry cloth. Take this old blow dryer and just hit it to make sure it's good and dry and there's no moisture left on it. So on this floor, I did a tape down on the sink area. The reason is, one, because I don't want to get too thick in here and not be able to get my sink in and out and whatnot without sanding too much. And so I can get my faucet in here. And also because I want more of it to flow kind of over the edge than just down in the sinkhole, because spots like that where I want to have plenty to soak up and still have plenty to level out and not have a dimple in it. I'm gonna do like I did before, pour about 3/4 of it, and then go around with my hand and wipe the edges so it'll help it flow over. Then we'll pour the rest and get it flowing out. Oh, baby.
When you're done, we're gonna play a little game.
A game?
Yeah, so you're gonna be standing in front of the bar thing, and then I'm gonna give you one of these walkie-talkies, and I'm gonna, I'll just tell you what to do.
I have 2 gallons mixed up with this, because I didn't have any proper measurements before, or no, less.
It's definitely gonna drip.
Zoom in on the lights at, see if you see them hot. See them? See that? It made like a ring, almost like it wasn't filled in good with epoxy, so we gotta get that just out of the way. Yeah, I got some more bubbles here. It's kind of seeing the light. I'll re-inspect it in a minute, retorch it. According to the instructions, you can torch it up to 2 hours. So I'll keep checking it periodically and knock out any of the bubbles that might pop up later. So I got it poured, got all the bubbles popped. The only thing I got left really to do after it sets, I'm gonna give it an hour, and I'm gonna come and scrape the drips off the bottom. You know, once they stop dripping off and it's just little lumps, I'm gonna come scrape them off while it's soft. Still dripping pretty good there. Now the chamfered edge, to me, it looks better than just a round over, your usual round over. But I will say the round over, it gets a little thicker, I guess, because it flows over it better. And I went back and sanded just the edges a little bit around the edges to get it to flow better. And all of it looks good. You can see here, if you look in a certain light, you can see little dust particles on it, but that's just what's floating in the air pretty much. You can't get rid of all that. And you don't even know, like right now, you can't see it. You have to get just right, and you can see a couple. But so I've noticed right up against the tape where it's touching, it's kind of going up on the tape a little higher. So what I'm gonna do now is just pull the tape down so that it kind of lay down flat. All right, that laid down just like I need it to. You see there, it laid down just right. Now, of course, that's super thick and way too much in there to fit in. So what I'm gonna do, since it's, I also, like I didn't mention, but I waited till right before I'm about to scrape the bottom here. So to do that, so now I'm just gonna go and scrape all that off the inside, just like the bottom here. And I'm just using just a wood wedge. I think I actually cut the end tip off of it for something else, but I'm just gonna go through and scrape all this off. You know, most of it comes off like that. Just scrape it or wipe it onto plastic here. It should be good to go there. All right, we got it all finished up. Excuse the background noise. Kids are watching TV, but it's finished up. Turned out just right here. So I'm just gonna go finish pulling my plastic off. I pulled the corners and stuff while it was still somewhat tacky to keep it from hardening on places it was gonna be difficult to get the plastic off. But look at the pool of epoxy down here, which it doesn't stick to this sharp cloth, so it just, it's a big thick piece. Well, it's stuck all the way up, so I'm not gonna pull it off. All right, epoxy's been curing for 7 days, so I'm gonna go ahead and install the sink. First, I'm gonna do a test fit, make sure it still fits in there after, some of the epoxy got on the edge of the opening. All right, it fits. I'm gonna pull it back out, silicone it up, set it in place, and then get ready to put our drain. We got it installed. I used a little silicone tool I had to wipe off the extra silicone, and then took a paper towel and just kind of wiped over. Try to clean some of the parts that smeared out, the little thin layer. So it looks pretty good. I should have installed my little basket here for the drain first, but I didn't, so now we got to put that in. So obviously this piece goes in the basket there, but then it comes with a little tool that you screw this little piece out with. I guess it helps hold it all together. And then that comes apart. So this goes under the bottom, that goes in the top, and then this goes in there and tightens it down, and that's just the key for it. Basket. All right, y'all, we finally got it installed here. This is the Home Impressions. That's the model number. Got it at a Russell Do It Center. And that's what she looks like on the picture, but here she is installed. Swivel's nice, cold to the front, hot to the back, like I like it. Got good pressure that way. Old lady was eating ice cream earlier, or last night, but, and then so on the top, it tells you what's what. So top is just stream like this, bottom spray. Let it down, spray, do whatever you want to. Off, so we're good. So far, no leaks. Got to start working on the backsplash now. If you can see here, my piece is really bowed. I don't know if you can see very well from that angle, but it bows up, and even bows up a little bit right here on this end because I laid a straight edge on it and just put a mark where it stops being flat. So what I'm going to do is cut it a couple places and just piece it. Now, when I joint, just put it together, I may use dowel pins. I may use like some kind of tenon, whatever, mortise and tenon type joinery, or even pocket screws from the backside. I don't know what to figure out how I'm going to join it. I mean, I'll glue it and join it up square, or use the dowel pins or whatever anyway. But first I got to get my pieces cut out and get them planed and kind of flattened down in the thickness that I need them. Now I have other pieces too that I've already have cut, so I'm going to have to join them together, or attach them together somehow. I would have just cut a strip to fill the gap on the back of the counter like I did on the end piece, so I wouldn't have to worry about how thin this is. If I can manage to get it all flat and planed and everything joined, get it flat without, or any twist or bow out of it without it being too thin and trying to drop down behind the counter, that'll be fine. I just need enough to get a bead of silicone right up under it to keep. I'm going to epoxy it too first, and then when I set it, have a bead of silicone just to keep water or anything gets spilled on the counter from running them under the backsplash behind the counter. So we'll figure that out here in just a second. But first, I'm going to have to cut here and there and rip it down close to my thickness. The table saw, run it through the planer and get it all close. So obviously I have that one to take down, and then this one is still full thickness. And I have one more in there I think I can use, but these two here, or these three here, are some pieces that I had already. And they're a little bit over an inch. They're like 1/16 or an eighth over. But they have a little bit of, I don't know if you can see, it's got just a hair, but I don't need much. But I'm gonna have to, this one's pretty straight, I think. And it's a little off. Anyway, I'm going to take just a little bit off. All right, guys, I ordered some boards. The wood I had to do the backsplash back here with, it's about time to get this towel off of here. It's pretty much all the way cured. I just didn't want to scratch it too much before it got completely cured. But anyway, to do my backsplash back there, I ordered this 2x6 because the wood I had, it was not, I got some 2x6s offline, well, really from Home Depot, to do my backsplash with, because the wood I had was kind of twisted or wood bowed, and I flattened a couple pieces out, but by the time I flattened it out, it was too thin, because in some places there's like a 3/4 inches between the wall and the counter, because it didn't, after milling it and all, it ended up being a little too, not quite deep enough, so I had to set it off the wall. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had any pretty much hangover. And even now I could use a little bit more, so but it's okay like it is. I just didn't want to go back any farther. And 3/4 inch gap there, it needs to be an inch at least. And what I had, it would have only been 3/4 by the time I got it flattened out, so it would just go behind there. We're gonna check it out and see how good it is. I already see here I got a couple spots I do not like, but I'm gonna have to do a little bit of milling because this is 1.5 inches thick. It's 2x6, but it's not true. It's kind of like regular lumber. It's 1.5 by 3.5. I mean 5.5. So I can maybe cut this side off, fill that in, no problem. So we're gonna check this out, and it's S4S. First off, it's from Home Depot, but it's apparently that's the company they use. But it's S4S, so yes, it was pretty expensive, but I would have had to go to try to find a lumber, you find somebody with some slabs already kiln dried, or find me a lumber supplier, which I've looked for around here, and there's really none close, or maybe some, a couple hours away, just for the backsplash here that I'm trying to hurry up and get done. As you can see, because we already moved in, I'm trying to get it finished up, and that would have took a while. Try to find somebody and drive over there and whatever, or find somebody with a slab already kiln dried. Then I had to cut it down and mill it, which is no problem, except the fact that, like I said, I'm kind of in a hurry. I have to make sure the moisture content is right. So we're just gonna get them out and check them out and see. Set my phone stand up. Check them out and just see how they look. I'm gonna have to rip them down a little thinner. I have enough to do one side already cut. I just gotta finish putting it through the joiner, planing it down and all that stuff. Well, for this section. So we can use it. I can use that. I just didn't have enough. So it looks to be pretty decent. This side, fill in a couple spots, like a knot hole or two. And this can be the front side. The back side is not as good, but it's fine. The front side looks pretty good. This side is gonna be the back side because it's got some holes, and then the bottom, or this part here, this part I'm gonna try to rip off. This one's good, straight. This one's got a slight bow, just a hair, not much. So what I may end up doing is just, instead of doing it in 2 pieces, I may cut and do it in 3 pieces and just have 2 joints. Just so I can try to keep it, good and straight. This house is a mess, man. Y'all see why I'm in a hurry to get it done, because I'm trying to get some of this crap out of the way. We're living in it and working on it at the same time. So I only need 11 foot 1 inch or so, but I'm just gonna do 12 in case, so I can cut some off each end or whatever at the end. After, say, if I need to run it through the planer to get it all even, then cut it off or whatever. So I'm gonna do, to make it, instead of doing an 8 foot piece and 4 foot, I'm just gonna do 3 4 foot sections to make it easier to work with, because it's a lot easier to run it through my machinery. I got my pieces glued together. We just use dowel pins, and then I put 1 pocket screw through the back side just to pull it up tight while the glue dries. Right there, I just put 1 dead in the center in between the dowels to pull it up, and did 1 there and 1 right here. So now, just because it's got a slight bit of unevenness, which I could sand that down and you would not see it, I'm going to just run it through the planer and take just a hair off of it. And I got these rollers up. If you got a small shop area, or you use a lot of bench top equipment like I do because you're on a budget, these roller stands are great, man. They just go through, they support your stuff. And yeah, so let's run this through here real quick and see how it turns out. Oh, that worked out great. I got some good fresh blades on there, and these rollers adjusted just right. Now this is 12 foot long. I forgot to mention how long this is. This is 12 foot long, and I'm running 12 foot board through a bench top planer with these rollers. It's working fantastic. I mean, I'm sitting on some crates here, and it's working out great on an uneven porch. My seams turned out perfect. Right here, all I gotta do is take a little, and really this one doesn't even need it, a little super glue and the sander, but that one doesn't need it. This one here, right on this seam, I got just a little smidge of a piece of tear out right there, but it's fine. The epoxy I put on there filled that little bit up, but right here on this seam, sand it, some super glue, sawdust, and sand it like I did the counters, and it'll come out smooth. So now I'm gonna run, this is actually the bottom side here, and I'm gonna run it through the joiner real quick just to get it squared up and flat all the way across, and then check my final height. All right, she's good and jointed, flat on the bottom. Now we're going to get to filling in. Use my router and a chamfer bit to chamfer these edges. I had to do one more step. First, I cut this to full length and this to full length. But I'm gonna wait on this long one, and I'll get to that in a second. But I put this up. Obviously, this one will get chamfered all the way down because it's over here by itself, right here. So it's cool. Now this one, I put them in place. I put my short one back there and my long one, over here. Made a mark and pencil there. So when I use my router, I stop at the pencil line right there. And I'll stop just short on this other one too. And just for illustration here, let me see that. This one here. So anyway, so like right there, this one's a little thicker, I mean, just a hair. But this one and this one are the same thickness. But so I'll stop just shy so I can come in and route the corner right here, which this one I could probably just route the whole thing, but I'll stop just shy to make sure it's going to meet up. So basically it'll do just like we did right here in this corner of the Lazy Susan. That way the chamfer, it all flow together there. And that one I'm going to cut off final length later. This one I'll get the cracks filled, get it sanded, and get these two epoxied first and get them installed. So that way I can get a more accurate measurement for the final length of that one, so that, if I have an 1/8 inch or whatever buildup of epoxy here, I'll have a more accurate measurement on my end of my cabinet down here. So it's not either sticking over or too short, whatever. Flush with the end here in the corner and not sticking over too much. So that's why I'm gonna wait and cut that final length and epoxy it last. Got a 45-degree chamfer all the way down, 1/4 inch. All right, got that one done, and that's just the right amount of chamfer that I want. So there we go. All right, I'm about to fill in just a couple splits and knot hole. I got this split here, and then 2 little knot holes on that long piece y'all saw. And I got 150 on here, and my super glue, my sandpaper, sawdust here, I'm gonna fill in just like I did on the countertop in there. So I'm not gonna record it because y'all saw that. So I got it filled in pretty good. That bottom side ain't completely dry yet, but so Starbond makes like a knot filling kit. It's just like some medium thick super glue kind of with a black dye in it. You can use the sand down, or I could put some black dye on some epoxy and fill it with epoxy. But the Starbond stuff for 2 little bottles of super glue in the accelerator can, it's like 50 bucks. And I don't have black dye for my epoxy. I don't have to order it and wait on it. And I'm trying to get some of this done. And if it's for a customer or something, yeah, I would probably do whatever looks the best like that. But it's for me, and I don't mind the way the super glue and the sawdust looks, because sanding dust, not the sawdust, the sanding dust looks, because it's the same wood, same color, it's just slightly darker there, and that's fine. So we're gonna leave it like that because it looks pretty good. All right, we're about to put 2 pieces of our backsplash on, like I said. Install them first, and then we'll get the long one done down the side right here of the, but get these on first so I can get a more accurate measurement on my long one here. So I didn't video the epoxy because you already saw it on the countertops, but I only did 1 coat on this. I did the seal coat and was gonna scuff it and do another one, but it turned out so dang good that I didn't even need to put a second coat. It's got almost an 1/8 inch on just the seal coat for whatever reason. And the bottom is sealed off good too. Well, to seal the backside, I put, the couple coats of urethane, or 3 coats of urethane. Let it sit for a few days to cure out. I'm gonna use silicone to run a bead, so it'll sit like this. And I'm gonna use a bead of silicone to run across the top here. Just like I said, one across the back side at the top, up against the wall, and then one on the back of the counter here to set it on to seal off. to keep any kind of water or anything, if you spill something, or like especially here on where the sink and all is, keep splashes over there, keep it from running down behind the backsplash or going up under the bottom. Or if you spill a drink or something, keep it from going under there. So we're gonna do that. But to help keep it stuck to the wall, I'm gonna use a construction adhesive. And at first I was thinking liquid nails, but run across the power grab, Loctite power grab. And I'm just gonna run a bead, you know, all the way, just, you know, zigzag all through the middle section here. So, you know, you got silicone at the top and then under the bottom, but then all through this middle section, run a couple beads of this power grab and stick it up there. It cures in 24 hours, but it's supposedly this compared to liquid nails. It's got like an instant grab. I mean, it gets tackier to start with, so you set it and you don't have to keep something propped up against it or clamped or whatever. I can't clamp it down. I can't keep it clamped down because I have no way to do it, but I can keep something propped against it for a while. But supposedly it's supposed to help, you know, hold it while it cures. But we're gonna try it and see how it does. Okay, I got some pretty good squeeze out along most of the top. The bottom I got squeeze, or along most of the top up here I got pretty good squeeze out. On the bottom I got some squeeze out and good in some places, and a few places right here in the middle, place over here I didn't get much squeeze out. Try to get just a little more up in there and wipe it off with my caulk tool. I'm gonna finished cleaning it up, and we'll get this other side done, and then we'll see how it looks. I'll go ahead and cut to a couple days later.
So they're done, finished up, kind of, you know, like I said, we moved in already, so we've been using them. Now we're to the end. I'll go through some things I would do differently about these if I had to redo them, and some tips or whatever that I would have. Number one, first things first, make sure your wood is dry enough. It was very clear after we got on started that our wood we started with was not dry enough. It kept cupping a little and flexing here and there. We made it work, as you saw in the video, but make sure your wood is dry. Take a moisture meter. They got some really good ones that are expensive, and they got some decent ones that are okay. The one I got recently, it's a pinless one. It's a Klein pinless moisture meter, and it's orange. It works good, and it's fairly accurate from what I can tell based on some other pieces I tested. Make sure when you get the wood, it's dry, okay? Once that's done, one thing I would do is, instead of doing 6-inch pieces, I mean, if you're doing slab, kind of like a table, like you do the river tables, and you're doing like a big slab over it, I mean, yeah, you wouldn't do individual boards. You would just flatten it with like a router jig or something and set it. But you'd have to have really big slabs for that. So we didn't have enough slabs to do that. So I ended up, like I said, cutting these. So what I would do is cut them in 3-inch pieces instead of 6-inch. I would do them in 3-inch pieces and just do, you know, double the number. So instead of 4 6-inch, obviously you would do like 8 3-inch. Because although you can flex or whatever a 3-inch small better, or, you know, easier, they're less likely to cup or bow on you, whatever kind. So like these cabinets here, if you see the strips in them, where they at? So like right here, you can see the little 3-inch strips. And a woodworking guy who builds cabinets and stuff told me that, so they're less likely to like try to cup and stuff the smaller they are. Or, you know, if you got enough slabs, I'll throw an illustration up here if I can. On the end grain, don't use the very middle section of it. Basically, you're cutting like the riff sawn part or the quarter sawn part or whatever. Cut those out, use those, and then glue them together, and they're less likely to cup. That's the most stable part of the wood if you have enough slabs. And so like if you're doing 3-inch strips like that, you can cut out that center section of the slab where the grain is the curl, the rounded part. So that's the most unstable part. And then, so that's the main two differences. Make sure your wood is dry enough to start with, at least 10% or under on the moisture content. Cut sections of your slabs that are the most stable. So then after that, you glue them together and you won't have as much, like I said, when we did the backsplash, you wouldn't have really that gap like that. But if you got enough, because we had to joint the end so much with a bow that it ended up making it slimmer this way. The depth was too short, so you can avoid that, which that was fine, it worked out, but you can avoid that. You can get that'll get your backsplash. You can get it really level with the epoxy. Got it pretty level anyway, but it would get really level. If the flatter it is, the more level that the epoxy will flow out anyway. I say flat, more level, yeah, level and flat. And so when you set your backsplash, there won't be any gaps between your counter and the backsplash. But we made it work with that anyway. I only had a couple spots, one here and then one down there that wasn't like really flat. So if you look at that, that's pretty flat. And it's because the epoxy leveled out. The pour of the epoxy is thick, so you'll save money on epoxy too if you make sure they're dry and they're flat and all that beforehand. Other than that, I would pretty much do everything the same. You know, we did we screwed the channel under here, the metal channel, just to help keep it flat. But if it's already flat and dry, it wouldn't have to have that anyway. So you could leave that out if you want to. It doesn't hurt to put it anyway, just to make sure. But people talk about wood movement, and if it's screwed in like that, if wood moves, it may, well, I think it's Katz Moses or something. He's a channel on YouTube. He's got this years of study of types of wood and how much they move. And it's outside, I believe it was the movement versus the width of the wood, etc. But with these smaller pieces, which again, the 3 inches they glue together are less likely to move, expand and contract compared to the wider pieces. That's another reason for the 3-inch pieces. But he's got different types of species of wood, how much they move. And so inside here, where it's going to be relatively the same conditions all the time, epoxy on the top and urethane sealed on the bottom to help lessen the moisture absorption and extraction or whatever. So it's very minor already on the movement, and it's definitely, like, unless you soak a piece of wood and it dries out, yeah, that's a lot of, you know, like pressure treated wood, you do deck boards when they dry. But like, especially in here, sealed up like this and already started with dry wood, all that, it's very minimal on the movement. You won't ever even notice or see it. So it shouldn't crack or anything like that if you do the channel under there. Otherwise, I probably wanted to screw that under there. But so you can do that or not. You know, that's up to you if you just want to do something like this. But I would probably do it anyway, just to help hold everything stable, because, you know, it may not be perfectly flat to start with, and that kind of helps it stay there before you put your epoxy on it. But other than that, that's it. I would have made sure my wood was dry, cut it certain sections of the slab out, use those 3-inch pieces to help avoid movement and all that stuff too, and then epoxied it like we did, and that would have solved so many problems, mainly just the wood being dry. That would have solved so many problems. But it turned out pretty good. Another thing is wax your countertops when you get done. Most of it's okay, but like right here, this is one we use the most, and you can't see it right here unless the light's in a certain way. But it gets like kind of like car paint does when you wash. It gets these little micro scratches, and so waxing will help prevent that, and because it gives something to just slide over. So I'm going to go and wax these first things first, because these have gotten some micro scratches already. I'm going to take some polishing compound with a drill. I'm going to buff it and get some of those micro scratches out. Then once that's done, I'm going to put a couple coats of wax and wax on, wax off like Mr. Miyagi. And then once that's done, I'll just do that a few times a year, you know, like do that once every, I don't know, a few months. And then just to keep a good wax surface on there, so when you're sliding drinks or cups or plates or whatever across it, it just slides across the top and does it micro scratch. I don't even know if you can see the little swirls in the video. Like I said, it's like car paint. just from wiping, doing that, or like cleaning the counters off. My wife wipes the counters off with a rag. It leaves those little micro swirls. So I'm gonna try to buff those out and wax it to prevent that. Because I mean, you can't really see it from here, but you know, it'll help protect it even from bigger scratches too. And that's the thing about the epoxy, you can go back and you can wet sand it and buff it to get it back, shine it over the years after it had so much wear and it's kind of hazy, like it's not as clear as it used to be. You can go back, wet sand and buff it and get it back to almost new condition here. But I think they turned out great. It was definitely a learning curve during this process of this video, and I have more knowledge now than I did before that, you know, I can move on doing some other woodworking projects, because I do love woodworking and welding and that kind of stuff has always been one of my things. It's kind of the same. One's just metal, one's wood, but it's all similar. I do enjoy that, and I will continue to take what I learned here forward. So I guess I won't make this video any longer. I'll wrap it up here, and hopefully y'all enjoyed this video and learned something if you want to do your own countertops such as these.